Welcome back, Math 7. Today we are starting the new unit. As you may know, my condition is getting better, and it is your responsibility to check the Seesaw message or Google Classroom messages. In this case, I'm using Seesaw messages, and the test, which is percentage, fraction, and decimal test, I postpone it to later this week. So you will have a test anyway, but before then, I'm going to go through the new unit. So this unit is called fractions because we're mostly going to discuss about fraction operation, specifically addition and subtraction most of the time. So have that in your mind. The very first lesson outcome that we're going to learn is something known as divisibility rule, which is the first two that we have. So I'm going to put that as October 19 to October 20 of 2020. That is our main goal for today. Let's go with workbook page 4, ladies and gentlemen. Today's lesson will be more than other times because we're going to go through divisibility rule entirely. But to be fair, you will have your calculator. And there will be some section where you're going to rely on that technology. Now, let's get this started. What is divisibility rule? Divisibility rule is, like the word suggests, we are trying to find if there's any numbers that can be divided by some other number. So I want you to take out your calculator, and then I want you to go through something divided by something and then give you the whole number or not. Because when you go through divisibility rule, if you divide something by the other number, you should have some kind of whole number as an answer. If you have any type of decimal, so if you have a whole number as an answer, that means you're on the right track. If I have a different number, which is like decimal in your calculator screen, that means it's not divisible. It's not divisible by the other number. So I'll give you a little bit of time so that you can grab your calculator. So as you may notice, I grabbed my calculator, and of course we're gonna start using calculator, but later we're not gonna use calculator, we're gonna use mainly our mental math. So let's go with this divisibility rule activity. We have every number from 20 to 40. I want you to do this as a first. Find out which numbers are divisible by 2. What I mean by that is this. 20. Is 20 divisible by 2? Well, double check. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Can you see that it is a whole number? That means we put a circle on it. Yes, it is divisible. What about the next number? 21 divided by 2. Will it give you a whole number? The answer is no. It's going to give you decimal number. That means if I have a decimal number, that means it's not divisible. So we move on. And I want you to do everything followed by that. 22 divided by 2. What will that give you? 11. 11 is a whole number. So something like that. At this point, I want you to pause this video, and it will take about 1 minute. I want you to check every single number, and then I want you to share that answer with your instructor. If you resume this video, that means we're going to go through some of the answer. If you did everything correctly, oops. These are the numbers that is divisible. Now, before we getting into the second activity, now let's think about some of the rule. I want you to look at everything that you circle from 20 all the way to 40. What are the numbers that anything that's divisible by 2 have in common? Well, if you look at it, the last digit, you will notice that it ends with 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So, divisibility rule for number 2, I want you to put what we just discovered. Basically, any number with last digit of 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8 is divisible by 2. That is what I want you to put down. Any number with last digit of 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8 is basically divisible by 2. Sometimes any digit that ends with this is also known as even number. So you can also consider every single even numbers are divisible by 2. Even number is opposite of odd number. Odd number is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, those kind of number. Even number is 2, 4, 6, 8. Those are the numbers. Now I want you to pause this video to do activity number 2. Now this time I want you to find any number that is divisible by 5, and I want you to put a square. Honestly, it shouldn't take about 30 seconds, more than 30 seconds to a minute, so please pause this video and then do this activity. Once you finish it, here's the answer. The number sets that are divisible is 20, 25, 30, 35, and 40. And now here's our rule situation. How do we know a pattern? How can we predict if some number is divisible by 5? Always look at the last number. Can you see it's end with 0, 5, 0, 5, 0? Do you see the pattern now? If you see the pattern, that means you understood. If you don't see the pattern, that's okay. This is our first lesson. Any number that is divisible by 5 basically ends with so any number with last digit of 0 or 5 is divisible by 5. If you guys doubt about it, I want you to think about your multiplication of 5. Like 5 times 5. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15. So as you may notice, and 5 times 4 is 20. As you may notice, the multiplication of 5 always ends with 5, 0, 5, 0, 5, 0. So divisibility rule 5 always ended up with 0 or 5. So once you understand this divisibility rule 2 and 5, you will notice that it is, how can I say, it is easy to figure any number out even without using your calculator. Just look at your last digit. If it's even number, then it's divisible by 2. If it's end with 0 or 5, that means it's divisible by 5. Now, for our last activity for this page, you need to now put a triangle on any number that is divisible by 10. I want you to pause this video again and then do this activity about 30 seconds using your calculator, and then share your answer. Once you finish it, here's the answer that you should see. There are only 3 numbers that fits to that number 3 condition. And some of you guys may already know the rule at this point. Any number that is divisible by 10, basically, if you have any number that ends with 0, is always divisible by 10. So that means anything that ends with 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way to 90s, yeah, those are the ones that is divisible by 10. Or you can think of any multiplication of 10. You have to end with 0. That means some people may wonder, Mr. Kim, can a number share divisibility rule 5 and 10? Yes, you can. Like look at, for example, 30 over here. This number is even number, so you can divide it by 2. And at the same time, 30 is multiplication of 5, and then the way you know is it ends with 0 or 5, so that's why it's also divisible by 5. And it's end with 0, so it's also divisible by 10. So divisibility rule basically can overlap. In fact, most of the situation you will see more than one number that it can be combined together. That is one of the divisibility rules. I am not going 2, 3, 4, 5 order. I'm picking an easy one. Any number that is 2, 5, 10, I like to say this is relatively easy rule. Now, things are getting a little tricky. We're doing this divisibility rule twice, ladies and gentlemen. For this time, we are going to figure out any number that is basically divisible by 3. And we're going to put a circle. This is our activity on page number 5. So, I know that there is a rule, but I'm not going to tell you the rule yet. I want you to take out your calculator and then give it a shot. This should take more than about 1 minute or 2. So please pause this video and then go through. And next one, I won't use any calculator. Because there's a rule. Now, I want you to check your math work over here. Some of you may notice that I was using calculator for some half and then I decided not to use. So there must be a little rule for divisibility rule. Divisibility rule for number 3 is quite interesting because what you need to do, there are 2 steps to figure out if any number is divisible by 3. So I'm going to go through that. Number 1, first of all, it's very distinct rule. Unlike the previous easy rule, which is 2 and 5 and 10, 3 involves some unique possibility in here. So I have that in your mind. One thing that you need to do is I want you to add all digit. That's just step number 1. And step number 2, yes, I want you to determine if the summed up number is divisible by 3. These two are the rule. If you look at just these two, you may wonder, I have no clue. Well, sometimes people are jumping into the conclusion too quickly, so I'm going to explain to you why. Let's go through the one that I circle. When I say add all digit, that means 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 4. And if it's this number, 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 7, something like that. And same thing. I want you to think about the addition of everything. 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 plus 4 is 5, 5 plus 4 is 9. Is 9 a divisible number by 3? Yes, it is, because 3 times 3 is 9. It's a whole number. Same thing. 1 plus 0 plus 4, that's 5. 5 plus 7 is 12. Is 12 any number that is divisible by 3? Yes, it is, because 4 times 3 is 12. Other parts. 1 plus 0 plus 5, that's 6. 6 plus 0 is 6. Is 6 divisible by 3? Yes, it is, because 3 times 2 is 6. So as you may notice, these are the ones that you need to do. Now, a quick example. Why 1045 is not divisible by 3? Well, 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 5. I want you to do that. Then 1 plus 0 plus 4, that's 5. 5 plus 5, that's 10. 10 is not divisible by 3. It's in fact divisible by 2 or 5. So that's why it's not involved as divisible by 3, ladies and gentlemen. Now, some of you guys may know the pattern. I want you to pause this video to do activity for the second one, which is putting a square on any number that are divisible by 6. Now, this will take about a minute or two, so I want you to pause this video and then double check the answer after. The next example I'm gonna go through without the calculator. Alright, if you went through all of the list, you should see only 1, 2, 3, 4 different examples in here. The reason being is because, and I'm gonna put the work so that it's easier for me to explain. There we go. Divisibility rule number 6, or divisibility rule for anything divided by 6, also have 2 different steps. But some of you may notice that some of the example from divisibility rule number 3, only few overlap, few don't. So finding out those is actually quite important. when it comes to this one, there's about 2 steps, or if you want to go 3 as a smaller step, it can become 3 too. So I'm going to go through each of them. To identify if numbers are divisible by 6, you need to first of all add all digit. And number 2, I want you to identify if the whole digit or whole number is even number. And number 3 is check the divisibility rule of 3, and that's 1 to 3. You may notice it's quite tricky, and the reason that it's tricky is because in multiplication, how can we make 6 other than 1 times 6? There's only one way: 2 times 3 or 3 times 2. As you may notice, 6 is combination of 2 and 3. That means we need to combine divisibility rule for 2 and then divisibility rule for 3. And we need to combine these two together. So let's go back to what I did. When you look at first one and third one, it's actually a repetition of divisibility rule of 3. Adding all of the digit and check if that summed up number is divisible by 3, or it's multiplication of 3. It's the same thing. And number 2, we need to check if they're even number or not. So let's go through why I excluded some of them. First of all, can you see that I add the whole thing, 1 plus 0, 4, 4. That gives you 9. So this number is divisible by 3. And at the same time, is this number even number or odd number? It is even number because look at the last digit. It ends with 4. That means it is an even number. If you look at the other way, 1 plus 0 plus 4 plus 7, that gives you 12. So it is divisible by 3. Yes, that's why we circle it. However, is it even number or odd number? It is odd number for this case because, as you may notice, the digit 7, it's not 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. It's neither of any of those. So that's why this is not included as divisibility rule for 6. And you may notice that none of the other number that is not circled, I didn't even go there because the first rule, divisibility rule number 3, if I add up all digits, I should be having the number that is divisible by 3. None of these guys are divisible by 3 to start with. So that's why I do divisibility rule for number 3 first, and then check whether that's even number or not, or vice versa. That's what you can do. Now, divisibility rule number 4. This one, if you don't mind, unlike the previous situation, I want you to look at the rule first and then try to challenge yourself whether you can find it out without actually using your calculator or not. Because divisible rule number 4 is relatively easy. What you gotta do is this. Find if you identify out of the whole number if the last 2-digit number is divisible by 4, that means you actually have a whole number that is divisible by 4. So this time, pause the video to do activity number 3, which is putting a triangle for any number that is divisible by 4, and then I want you to put the triangle for anything that is applicable, and then double check with your calculator later. If you resume this video, well, I hope that you already shared your answer. Here is what you need to focus. 44 is divisible by 4. 45 is not divisible by 4, so is 46, so is 47, 48. Yes, we can divide this by 4. If you doubt about it, that's when you double check. 1048 divided by 4, 262. 49, not divisible. 50, no. 51, no. So in that situation, just in order to show, can you see 51 is not divisible by 4, so the whole number 1051 is not divisible by 4. 52, is this number divisible? Yes, it is. 60 is divisible by 4, by the way. 60 divided by 4 give you 15, by the way, so that's why. 62, is this the number? No. 62, 1 is 22, no. 63, 4, 23, no. 64, 24, this one work. 65, no. So just in order to prove the last one, 1064 divided by 4 give you 266. So as you may notice, I barely use any of a calculator to start with. I use it at the end. And the way that you do, like I underline, just choose 2 of the digit. 49. Is this number divisible by 4? Not really. It's 7 times 7 that give you 49. However, what about 48? Yes, you can, because even if you do like this way, long division, you know that it's 4, 8, 2, which we learn. 12 times 4 is 48, or 48 divided by 4 is 12. It is divisible number. So that's how you do. Last activity, divisibility rule of 8. And this one we're going to put underline. Before we getting into the calculator part and so on, like the number 3, I'm going to give you the rule first. I want you to use the rule and then discover whether the number are matching or not. For number 8, you need to understand that your job is find out if the last 3 digits from the end are divisible by 3. I'm sorry, divisible by 8. Now, I want you to go to this activity over here and then figure that part out. This should take about 2 minutes and so on. So pause this video and then I want you to work on. If you finish it, share the answer, and if you want to double check, please do. Maybe underline was a bad idea because it's kind of hard to see. this one, 59. It's not in the multiplication of 8. 60, it's not under 8. 61 divided by 8, no. 62 divided by 8, no. 63, no. But 1064 should be the one, because 8 times 8 is 64. There you go. Once you do everything, ladies and gentlemen, you should discover 3 numbers that is divisible by 8. And the way that I could figure out is I focus on the 3 digit. And this one I can go through over here. Like 048. Is that possible? Yes, it is. What makes 48 from the multiplication table? 8 times 6 give you 48. 56. 7 give you 64. 8. So the thing is, if you collect 3 of a digit, and then if you divide it by 8, then you can figure things out. But some number that doesn't work is, for instance, this one I'm gonna use a calculator. 1053 divided by 8. As you may notice, I picked this random number. It doesn't give you the whole number. And there are several reasons. Number one, it's an odd number. Do you remember? Divisibility rule number 2 should be even number. And the other part is 1054. If you think about it, divided by 8, it doesn't give you the whole number at the same time in here, even if it's an even number, because 54, 054 by the way, can we have 54 from multiplication of 8? Not really, because 8 times 6 is 48, 8 times 7 is 56. It skipped 54, so that's why. And ladies and gentlemen, that is today's lesson. Your homework is actually located on page 7 of your workbook, which is what I put as a class example. I want you to go through, and I know some of the divisibility rule we didn't go over, like 9 in this case, but still you will have some calculator activity in this page. I want you to go through this entire list. That is your homework problem. To explain you a little bit about what you need to do, I give you a little example. I want you to make every single sum over here. So instead of 1248, I did sorry, I did 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8. That gives you 15. And 15 is divisible by 3, something like that. And you sum up at the end. If it's not applicable, don't even put X, ladies and gentlemen, just leave it. So either check or nothing. That is your homework for today.